All praise be to the eternal glory of God. And I'd like to please just talk a little bit about the word Hebrews, meaning the pun from God who invented words and who invented the pun, and who, if those who say he doesn't exist, they say they're atheists. Again, I think I talked about this before, but by saying you're an atheist, you're acknowledging the existence of a God. So then where would that concept have come from if not from him? And then so as I said before, when you do that, it's like you say you're an bananist. You don't believe that bananas exist, and yet you know they exist because you've invented an antonym for them, which is an artificial word. So then what would be the argument for that? You can't possibly say that you invented the concept. It had to come from somewhere. So by saying you're an atheist, you're saying, methinks the lady doth protest too much. Obviously, God put the idea in your head of him. He set the world in their heart, as he says in Proverbs. Ecclesiastes, the preacher. So the word Hebrews, meaning he bruises, Hebrews, which is also a private joke for those who not know bruise. And that's a personal joke, like a Lizzie Grant kind of a thing about Chicken Fu Young Wong, who only those jokes resonate with those within a certain clan, because that's the funny bone of that family. So my point being that God invented all words, and it's no coincidence, does not exist, to the fact that the word Hebrews, as in the chosen tribe of Hebrew, Hebrew, that his Hebrews, God's chosen, are the ones he bruises. Because we know he corrects and smites those he loves. That's the irony of living in this compromised satanic nonsense universe, 6,000-year fiasco test in which the reality is so perverted that the good have to suffer. This is as per this draconian, garbled, unenforceable nonsense contract, literally, that God agreed to when Azazel and his cronies told God, hey, we stole the keys to your kingdom. So God said, oh, great. You know what I'm saying? So his problem was that he allowed these creeps to take hostages. And you'll notice that God, who repented of this whole thing, but can't change his word, because then if he changes it, his word means nothing, and he's a hypocrite like Homo. So that said, we have to understand that God repented of the contract, but later, in the way Israel will not ever deal with terrorists, said no. And now God takes no hostages. He takes no prisoners. As you see with Armageddon, he means business. All those descriptions that I'm reading in Isaiah to frighten you are exactly that, to frighten you to the reality of the fact that his mighty arm is going to come out of the sky, and his hand will be stretched out against you. I promise you, he's a person, and he's vengeance. And he will pay you back to your face, not immediately. For his justice is not executed speedily. And this is why the sinner in his heart continues to think he can get away with it. Because he's getting away with it. I did it. This is why God uses me as this fool, this offscouring of the earth, this rock of offense, who by ensample, as with every saint, shows you that this is real. And I had it all, and stupidly in my pride and my wrath went astray. As God says, in the pride of your folly will you go astray? Of course. Because, as with everyone, my core is this worthless, entitled, narcissistic creep. Not everyone. Not, for instance, Mashenka Magdalene's not like that at all. Many people are not. Elphic's not. But that's the irony anyway. I don't want to talk about myself. So I want to talk about everyone has these blind spots and commits these horrible things, and they don't know. We don't know we're doing them because we rationalize them until those of us that are our loved ones, who, because they're loved ones, will risk our wrath, say, look, you're doing this and this, you're a hypocrite, etc., etc. So let's read Isaiah, because this is real, you know. God of Israel is real, and he's going to come down. I tell you. Take it from someone who knows now. That's the point. I'm the scapegoat. Chapter 10. The destruction of Assyria is a type of the destruction of the wickedness at the second coming. Few people will be left after the Lord comes again. The remnant of Jacob will return in that day. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And there's an echo to James there. We remember that, James 3:16, about the widow and the fatherless. So this is, we know, God's value system. We see what he tells people to be kind to the widow and the fatherless, the orphan. So that's this person, God, and we have to learn to please our Father. He's in charge of everything. So it behooves us to read the Bible over and over and listen to it and find out what this person with whom we desperately need a relationship. For it depends on the unspeakable salvation of not eating worms in Gehenna, fire worms forever. That said, getting to know God means listening to his word and listening to the person that God is and what he prefers. Like, he owns this giant house. So do you want to come into this house where there's many mansions? I would not tell you were it not so. So this house has many mansions. But to be a tenant there, you can't be drinking alcohol. You can't use profanity. You can't, and I did all these horrible things. God let me do them so he could punish me for them. He deluded me into doing them, as he deludes everyone into doing these things, good or bad. He's God. That's the point. There are no original thoughts. He's deluding you either with good or bad, and he wrote it all before. It's already happened, and there's no free will. And of course, this is the satanic resistance to think that it can't. No, I'm doing it. No, you're not. Mia Sharvi Ha Olam, he who speaks the world into existence in Aramaic. He did it already. He's talking you into existence. It's his movie. And I love that because it exonerates me from feeling that these stupid choices I make, which are terrible always, I'm not extreme. I'm an interchangeable piece of garbage, like everyone. Some are good and some are bad. But anyway, you've heard it all before. It's all nonsense talk. I don't know anything. Let's read the Bible. God knows, not I. I just was trying to tell you, don't make the same stupid mistakes I've made. God forbid, right? Okay, come on. We need some good, funny. Let's be silly, because we have so much to be grateful for, really. Look at these countries that are being flooded, Come on. The destruction of Assyria is a type of the destruction of the wicked at the second coming. Few people will be left after the Lord comes again. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And what will ye do in the day of visitation? I mean, this is, and in the desolation which shall come from far. To whom will ye flee for help? Now really think about it. What are you going to do when his mighty arm comes out of the sky, flame with fire? It's coming. Here we go. Wait, sorry. Let's do that again now. Chapter 10, Isaiah, the book of the prophet Isaiah, verse 3. And what will ye do in the day of visitation? Come to the cross. Okay. Yeah, think about that. What will ye do in the day of visitation? I'll say it again. And what will ye do in the day of visitation? See, I'm trying to scare you. Is your heart pounding? Here, let's do it again. To whom will ye flee for help? And where will ye leave your glory? As Paul says, your glorying is not good if it's not for the glory of God, So, verse 4, without me they shall bow down under the prisoners, and this is God now talking to Isaiah, and they shall fall under the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him charge. Now God is deluding the Assyrian here. He says, let me just hang on a second, please. Okay, so he says, God's talking about he's going to delude the Assyrian. I will send him against an hypocritical nation, Israel, and against the people of my wrath, Hebrews. God, he's bruising them in his wrath, the Hebrews. And against the people of my wrath, the Hebrews, will I give him, the Assyrian, a charge to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. And now God's talking about how the Assyrian really doesn't know any of this, what he's doing. Howbeit he meaneth not so. Howbeit he, the Assyrian, meaneth not so, meaning he doesn't mean to do any of this for intention, neither doth his heart think so. He's not doing it by strategy nor sentiment, but it is in his heart to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. He is like Putin. He is like Alexander the Great or Hitler. He just wants to acquire because he's greedy and crazy. For he saith, are not my princes altogether kings? He said, meaning he thinks they're all interchangeable. This is the Assyrian. He doesn't realize that he's enacting God's specific strategic military plan, the Lord of hosts. He says, the Assyrian, is not Calno as Carchemish, meaning is one place not like the other? Is not Hamath as Arpad? Is not Samaria as Damascus? Of course not. We know that God can make rain come on one place and not the other, right next to it. And now God talks again, this is the Assyrian still talking, pridefully, homosexual, the Assyrian. As my hand hath found the kingdoms of the idols, and whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and of Samaria, shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? Of course, Jerusalem's idols are not idols. They're God. So this is the guy doesn't understand anything. He thinks they're all interchangeable. He's interchangeable himself. God always says that. He goes, these people are like the gods that they worship. They're just interchangeable garbage and chaff to be burned on the day of death. So he says, and now he's bragging more again. Always the sign of some satanic, not irrational creep, bragging. As my hand hath found the kingdoms of the idols, and whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and of Samaria, shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? God says, yeah, right, it'll never happen. Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and upon Jerusalem, meaning his whole work, but a short work will he make upon the earth. He means the exorcism of this demon for this 6,000 years on earth. I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria, the metaphorical Assyrian, and the glory of his high looks, his prideful, stout, stubborn, stiff-necked, self-regarding looks, like he knows anything. For he saith, and now again in Satanic line 13, God's quoting the Assyrian again, talking about himself. By the strength of my hand have I done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent, and I have removed the bounds of the people, and I have robbed their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. And my hand hath found as a nest the riches of the people. See how greedy he is? The riches of the people. And as one gathereth eggs that are left, have I gathered all the earth. And there was none that moved the wing, or opened the mouth, or peeped. And notice how God gives him this poor grammar here. It should be, and there was none that moved the wing, nor opened the mouth, nor peeped. But he says or, because he's a churl. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? This is God talking again. As if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff, as in the staff in the manner of Egypt, should lift up itself as if it were no wood. Therefore shall the Lord of hosts, send among his fat ones leanness, and under his glory he shall kindle a burning like the burning of a fire. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One for a flame, and it shall burn and devour his thorns and his briars in one day, and shall consume the glory of his forest and of his fruitful field, both soul and body, and they shall be as when a standard-bearer fainteth. And the rest of the trees of his forest shall be few, that a child may write them, like a child may write them with pencils, because man uses trees for papyrus, for pulp, fiction, for writing. So verse 20, and it shall come to pass in that day, again this is Isaiah chapter 10, the book of the prophet Isaiah chapter 10, Old Testament, and it shall come to pass in that day that of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob. See that satanic attack? Even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. He could not be more explicit. Admit it, please. So, you're never going to defy God. You'll never form a weapon against him. Stop the delusional, irrational self-destructive nonsense. Stop it. Okay. So, here we go. The consumption decreed before time, declared before time, before God invented stupid little time, before God said, oh, I'm going to invent time, as if it's a spice, which it is. One of his many spices, time. Hey, it's kind of spicy and boring and awful all the time. Anyway, so God invents time. And he can do anything he wants. Stop saying he can't. He's listening. He will remind you of your nonsense later. The ridiculous nonsense of idols. Which are like Mickey Mouse figurines that you're filling up your house with. Like a tchotchke that you're bringing. A tourist. You're a tourist. Stop being a tourist. And it's just hoarding. Stop being a hoarder. The consumption decreed before the beginning of time, declared the end before the beginning, God shall overflow with righteousness, aka blood. For the Lord God of hosts shall make a consumption even determined, meaning as yet determined, which means he did it already, in the midst of all the land. Therefore thus saith the Lord God of hosts, O my people that dwellest in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against thee, after the manner of Egypt. Like Pharaoh with his little staff. For yet a very little while, and the indignation shall cease, and mine anger in their destruction. Because remember, really, that's God's anger in that staff. God says it, the rod of mine anger. The Assyrian, the Egyptian, that whole satanic clan, with that spirit of those who tear down trees. It's that Nimrod spirit, like, let's build a mall here, let's tear down these trees and build them all, it's mine. Yeah, that whole thing, that pioneer spirit. They're really just cowboys, cut that thing down. But it stems from the Puritans. So here we go. This is such a great line. Again, Isaiah 10, verse 24. Therefore saith the Lord God of hosts, O my people that dwellest in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against thee after the manner of Egypt. For yet a little while, and the indignation shall cease, and mine anger in their destruction. And the Lord of hosts shall stir up a scourge for him, according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb. Remember how Moses disobeys and uses the staff himself? And as the rod was upon the sea, so shall he lift up after the manner of Egypt, which is the most distasteful gesture to God. And it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulder, and his yoke from off thy neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. He is come to Aiath, he is passed to Migron. At Michmash he hath laid up his carriages. They are gone over the passage. They have taken up their lodging at Geba. Ramoth is afraid. Gibeah of Saul is fled. Lift up thy voice, O daughter of Galim. Cause it to be heard unto Laish, O poor Anathoth. Madmenah is removed. The inhabitants of Gebim gather themselves to flee. As yet shall remain at Nob that day. He shall shake his hand against the mount of the daughter of Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. Behold, the Lord of hosts, shall Behold, the Lord of hosts, shall lop the bough with terror, and the high ones of stature shall be hewn down, and the haughty shall be humbled, and he shall cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon shall fall by a mighty one. Let's keep going, please. The dog is taking a naparoo, slouching, this cute dog. Hey, boy. Book of Isaiah, chapter 11. The stem root of Jesse, I, the Christ, will judge in righteousness. The knowledge about God will cover the earth in the millennium. The Lord will raise an ensign and gather Israel. Again, the book of the chapter 11 of the prophet Isaiah. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth. And with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid. This kid. And the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed. Their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And the suckling child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and shall gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. And the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the seven streams, and make men go over dry shod. Which is the way he's making a reference to the way he made the water stand in a heap, both with the Jordan and the Red Sea. People often forget, I think, the Jordan instance. So he did it twice, and he'll do it a third time. And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, like God did that made that highway in the desert, in the midst of the water. which stood up in heaps. God can do whatever he wants. So, last line of this chapter. This is chapter 11, the book of the prophet Isaiah, the Torah, or as Greg Wattenberg says, the Torah, which is the correct pronunciation. Thank you. And so, here's the last line. 16, and there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. Chapter 12. In the millennial day, all men will praise the Lord. He will dwell among them. This is what we've been waiting for. The unspeakable gift of having God's presence, the Shekinah, back. Sheki, gold. So, here we go with chapter 12. And in that day thou shalt say, O Lord, I will praise thee. Though thou wast angry with me, thine anger is turned away, and thou comfortest me. Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid, for the Lord Jehovah is my strength and my song. He also is become my salvation. Therefore with joy shall he draw water out of the wells of salvation. And in that day shall ye say, Praise the Lord, call upon his name, declare his doings among all the people, make mention that his name is exalted. Sing unto the Lord, for he hath done exceeding excellent things, that is known in all the earth. Cry out and shout, thou inhabitant of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel in the midst of thee. And here we have another key to his personality. He likes loud singing and playing of guitar and tabrets and stringed instruments. He likes this sound of this stuff. I play guitar. I would love to learn the harp, because I know what pleases God, because he tells me, think of King David. Also plays the guitar and the harp, and I think the ukulele, mandolin, and several other stringed instruments probably. The lyre. Wish I could play these things. Arthur probably can play all these. So let's continue. Chapter 13. The destruction of Babylon is a type, again, because God works in patterns. He's the great author. Arthur is a type of the destruction at the second coming. It will be a day of wrath and vengeance. Babylon, the world, Satan's world, will fall forever. Babylon, the world, Satan's world, this world will fall forever. 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 Forevermore. You say forevermore. Forevermore. You say forevermore. Burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amoz did see. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones, I have also called my mighty ones from mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdom of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, and the weapons of his indignation. Notice that word, indignation, like the opposite of he's going to destroy a nation. Indignation. He's going to dig in and destroy it with fire, to destroy the whole land. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. That's a good line. Let's do that again. This is chapter 13, verse 6. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Literally at hand. His mighty hand will come out of the sky like a flame of fire. Howl ye, howl ye. Have you ever howled in pain and anguish? It's going to happen. Howl ye. For the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth, or travailleth. They shall be amazed one another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. And it shall be as the chaste roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. Every one that is found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the swords. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoilt, and their wives ravished. Behold, says Galt, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children, and Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, meaning their carcasses, and their houses shall be few and full of doleful creatures. An owl shall dwell there, and satyrs, as in sadistic, as in Satan, shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. That's chapter 14. Oh, sorry, that was 13. Okay, let's stop there. We'll resume with 14 then, please. Later. So that was 10 through 13. All praise be to the eternal glory, power, dominion, majesty of God. I was trying to get this to be exactly 40 minutes.